Hi everyone, this quick video will cover Module 14. So Module 14 is the second module that you will do for the visual analysis essay. The visual analysis essay, remember you started planning in Module 13, you completed a discussion board where you gave a little bit of a plan for your essay as well as posting the visual for your peers to look at. So at this point you want to look back at that discussion board and see what kind of feedback you got from your peers, as well as once it's graded, you'll have instructor feedback as well. The main thing you want to be looking for is making sure that the visual you've chosen will work for the essay, because I'll let you know right away if it won't work, as well as whether or not you have identified the actual message of the visual. That's usually the hardest part for this assignment. So look at that feedback first, and then you'll start working on the essay itself. So Module 14 is very simple. All we have is the overview, which I'll post this video in, and then again with the essay criteria. I want to go over that again just briefly here. So if you remember, your introduction paragraph is fairly simple. It's not supposed to be very long. Typically students get 5 sentences or so out of the introduction. So it is not a very long essay. It's only a 2 to 5 page essay, so your introduction is not going to be very long. You explain what the visual is in the very first sentence. That's very important for an analysis. We need to know right away what you're analyzing. And then you have a brief description of the visual so that we make sure we're looking at the right thing. The idea with the description is that the reader could read that description and have a fairly good idea of what it looks like without having to see the visual. Obviously, when I'm grading your essay, I will be looking at the visual, but the idea is that you could separate the two and that your reader could still kind of have a picture in their head of what it looks like. Your thesis is the last sentence of the introduction, which will include the visual's main message. That is, what is the creator trying to say with this visual? Like I said, this is sometimes the hardest part for this assignment, because students tend to want to create their thesis as something like they want to sell this car. Well, that's obvious. It's an advertisement. They are trying to sell the car, or they're trying to get you to donate money or whatever. But the question is, what are they saying about that car that makes you want to buy it? So what is unique about this particular make and model of car that makes it more special than the other types of cars out there that you could buy? So what are their message about the product? What is their message about the organization, or whatever it is that they're trying to advertise? Now, if you're not using an advertisement, I said earlier in the previous video that advertisements are the easiest to use for this assignment, but if you're using something like a photograph, artwork, or something like a cartoon, then the message may be a little bit different. So artworks and photographs tend to the message tends to be a little bit more general. Often the artist is trying to say something with the image. They may be trying to make an argument with the image. Same thing with cartoons. Cartoons are a little bit separate. Typically there's an element of humor, should be an element of humor, often something political or some kind of message that's an actual argument that they're trying to make. And so the identifying that will be a little bit different depending on what kind of visual you have chosen. The other thing that you can include in your thesis, if you want to, is your judgment of it, whether or not it's effective. Some students include this in the thesis, and some students put it in the conclusion. So it's entirely up to you. You don't necessarily need to include your own opinion in the thesis, but some students like to. The body of the essay is going to cover two specific elements that will show us the message of 2 to 3, I guess, that will show us the message of the visual. So you can pick design elements. A lot of students like to use color because that's really easy to analyze, but you can also look at the layout, the use of wording, font. It could be the spacing and the layout of it, however you want to look at that. You could also talk about the context where the visual is situated. Basically anything that's specific elements of the ad that shows the message will go in these first 2 paragraphs of your body. You only need 2 paragraphs. Sometimes students pick 3 design elements, and that's fine, but then you're going to have a 6-paragraph essay, and that's fine. The last body paragraph, or at least one of the body paragraphs, typically the last one, is going to be a discussion of rhetorical appeals and the intended audience. I want you to name the rhetorical appeal. So the word ethos, logos, or pathos needs to be in the essay itself. And then the actual intended audience, so naming the specific audience, that would be saying, you know, this is intended for middle-aged women, or this is intended for maybe a general audience, depending on the visual. So I want you to name the specific audience, be as specific as possible. And yes, we're looking at stereotypes here. So it may be in, you know, if you pick up a copy of Glamour magazine, there are only certain type of people who are going to be reading that. And so the advertisers are going to aim that advertisement specifically at that audience who's going to pick up that magazine. If you're looking at something that's a little bit more of a broad audience, so we'll say photographs, artwork or images, things like that, then you might be thinking about what kind of audience is this going to appeal to, because that's who they're creating the visual for. You can use first person in this essay. Don't use second person. Do not tell the reader what he or she sees or thinks. So you, again, aims directly at the reader, so you want to avoid that. You can tell us what you think, and you can tell us what people in general might think looking at it, but don't tell the reader what he or she thinks. You'll use MLA format. You'll have, it's 2 to 5 pages, and you'll have a works cited page with the visual listed. I will put an example of a visual works cited page in the module so that you can see that. And then you also need to attach a copy of the visual. If you have a file of the image or the advertisement, I want it directly uploaded into the essay. So go ahead and drop that file in there. It makes it the easiest for me to grade. If you can also upload it as a separate JPEG file. You can also include a link, which will be part of the MLA, the works cited entry anyway. Videos will have to be included with a link, but if you can put a copy of the visual in the essay, that is the most ideal for me to be able to grade. So that is the assignment itself, and then you're going to obviously write the essay and submit it. I have 2 sample essays here. The second one is the best of the 2 as far as just following it. It meets all the criteria and does a really, really good job with it. The first one, there are some problems with it, but the analysis itself in the middle is really good. So those are both good examples of how you can use that analysis. So here is the submission for the analysis essay. This will be, say, a visual analysis. It's not just advertising. And so then you'll just submit it here, and you can see that the grading rubric is wrong because it needs to be 75 points. I will post, also put in there an example of a works cited entry so that you can see that. So that's the essay itself. If you have questions, obviously you can always email me. Make sure that you're looking back at the discussion board because I'll leave you feedback there. This is our last major essay for the class, and so I want you to do well on it, obviously, but this is your last chance to show me what you can do as a writer, so kind of keep that in mind. And let me know if you're struggling with anything.